The best stories are the true ones. No Hollywood scriptwriter can complete there. This story, for example. In 1953, a car is built in Bavaria, a one-of-a-kind. That's to say, there's no other car in the world quite like it. 4 years later, an American soldier takes it to the States. By 1967, there's no trace of it anymore. Then in the spring of 2008, a team from Audi Tradition and Audi TV travels to Texas, where they rediscover it in the searing heat. And now it's on show in the Audi Museum Mobile. That's where we want to take you today. The Museum Mobile shows the entire history of Audi. The oldest exhibit dates from the year 1903, right down to the futuristic design studies. Cars from every motoring epoch, roadsters and family cars, motorbikes and racing cars. They can all be seen here. And part of the Audi history is Horch, one of the 4 brands symbolized by the 4 rings. Horch had its heyday in the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. Their extremely luxurious cabriolets and limousines were especially popular with film stars and heads of state. But after the war, people wanted simpler and less expensive cars. That meant the end of the Horch era. The last Horch was built here in Ingolstadt in 1953. It disappeared to the USA, turned up again in Texas, and is now back home in Ingolstadt. The last Horch. This is how the people from Audi Tradition found it, and the Horch fans wanted to see it here in the museum in precisely the same state, pure and unadorned. That's what a car looks like when it's been standing in the blazing sun for 40 years. Well, at least it didn't spend 40 years in Germany, where it's always raining. Okay, it's a bit rusty, but basically everything's there, a spectacular sight in a museum. Let's see what the public has to say about it. And what do you think of it? You look as though you'd like to venture an opinion. What's your impression of this car? May I ask you a question? What effect does it have on you?
Of course, the outside isn't in a very good state anymore, but I'm sure they can fix it. The model itself is amazing.
It's great that cars like that still exist.
It's a lovely idea to put something as old as that on show these days. It's fascinating that you can see a thing like that at all.
I can imagine it once looked really fine. I think it's just fascinating. Super.
And how does a professional regard a rust bucket like this? Johannes Hübner is an assessor for the FIA, the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. Is the last Horch something exciting for you as well?
It's super exciting, and I'm really envious of Audi. We also go to America and search the scrap heaps for rare cars. And here's a genuine one.
A provocative question. An old refrigerator gets thrown away. Why not a car as well?
A car is transport, but it also conveys history. This one tells the story of the time when Germany was an occupied country, of how an American soldier was able to buy a car like this from the former director of Auto Union and take it home to the States. It's an incredible story. You just have to keep it alive.
Soon the last Horch will go back to the workshop. They estimate 2.5 to 3 years for restoring it, all by hand, just like the old days. An ambitious project when you think of how difficult it is to get parts for a normal old-timer. How much harder for a one-of-a-kind like this? But on the other hand, if people come to the museum in hordes to see a rust bucket like this, then I reckon the Horch legend really is immortal. I'll certainly come back later and have another look when it's gleaming once again.